Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host Rob, and we're on our weekly stat show, our Age of Sigmar weekly stat show. This is going to be something we do every single Monday now. Once we have got all of the info, I've just spent the morning collating the info. So hello to everyone listening to the podcast, everyone live on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Hope you're all well. Obviously, this has all been brought to you by everyone on Patreon and on Twitch. So thank you very much, and big shout out to LLV, our stats generation machine. All boy Phil, hello, welcome. I hope you're doing well. I'll be taking questions live on Twitch if you listen to this back as a podcast. So I hope you're all good. If you're at Monday, you're at work or wherever you may be. I'm in the studio ready to rock. So this stat show will be, it's not the first one we've done, but it's one that we're going to do weekly, and I'm going to learn to do it on my own. Very excited about that. There will be a smaller video, which if you've come from that smaller video, which is a bit more stylized and a bit graphics heavy, this should be a long-winded ramble about a bunch of the information involving the people from the Twitch chat, because those guys usually give me loads of hot goss and information, which is good, or they're kind of the other person in the room, or the other show presenters. So All Boy Phil's asking, what's the Thunderscorn meta like? So Beasts of Chaos, actually, All Boy Phil, won't appear on any of the sheets because they're not popular enough nor done well enough in any tournaments so far. So Herylicious, thanks very much. So it's going to be a ramble. It should be some tactical insight and information. This will be some useful stuff, and a great opportunity for us to deep dive onto some stats about Age of Sigmar. So it should last for about an hour, but we'll see. So, if you guys, hi Alfie, Lee Bromley, I hope you're well. I hope you guys enjoyed Blood and Glory this weekend. That's mainly what this is going to be about, but there is going to be some other information as well. Mainly a comparison with the GT finals that we've just seen. Hi, Martin Orlando AOS, hope it's well. Right, so you guys should see on the screen in front of you so this is the overall breakdown. So this is, in my opinion, the sheet that gives the most information in a single spot. So is our first port of call. It's going to be our first port of call every week, I think. I'm really hoping this is going to, over time, improve. So if you've got any thoughts or feedback on what you'd like to see in the future, I'd love to hear it. So this has got all of the relevant information. So most importantly, how big is this data pool? So 24 events globally. So America, Australia, Japan, Sweden, Ireland, I think, England, America. I'm sure I've said that. So 24 events from all around the world, which in total is 1,240 different armies represented. Although I know at least one Stormcast army that's been through 3 different players' hands. Hey, everyone. Yes. So yeah, one Stormcast army has been flying around, and in total that's over 3,100 matches. So a lot of information realistically. Now, again, first criticism I think anyone will point out is you can never have a big enough data pool, but this is the data pool we currently have. I think it's absolutely great. Gives you some really good indication of some information, right? Hi, Hellstorm Dan. Hi, Hook and Pin. Boy Phil, Provoke Tree. Altonot, I hope you're all well. I'll be coming back to the Twitch chat in a second, so chat amongst yourselves. So, what stats can we see? So, we're taking Blood and Glory into account from this weekend. That's the newest information that we've had. We had the GT finals a couple of weeks ago, and then obviously we had Blood and Glory, and in between, I'm almost certain we did. But looking at this, you've seen that the Daughters of Cain match win percentage, that's at the top right-hand corner as you're looking at this sheet, has gone down to 71%. And that's because Daughters of Cain did not win this event. Obviously, it was won by Legions in the Gash, by Rustfield. At second and third, Joe came second with Legion of Sacrament. And third place was also taken by another Legions in the Gash army. So 3 in the top 5 there. Oh, wait, sorry. It's 3,261 match wins. So it's actually, the data pool is from 6,200 matches. Really appreciate that, LV. Thank you very much. And also, it's from 36 events, not from 24 events. So there we go. Morning, Darren. Morning, Speckles. Hope you're well. Angry Wargamer John. This isn't orcs. This is not orcs. So I won't necessarily see the chat right away while I'm reading out the stats. But once I am, I'll come back to the chat. So let us know what you think. So Daughters of Cain did not win the Blood and Glory event this weekend, which is a 5-game Age of Sigmar tournament that was being held. But and Ben Sava, who was on his hot streak, having only lost 1 game so far in Age of Sigmar 2, to Dan Ford with his Khorne Murder host, on a single dice roll, has now lost his 2nd game. So I think that's a big deal. But interestingly, he won it in a mirror match against Daughters of Cain. So it's not necessarily the Daughters of Cain are now losing. It's more that Daughters of Cain are just beating each other up on the top table, allowing Legions of Nagash to just fly by. But yeah, 71% win rate, but they only represent 5.4% of the meta. So that means if you turn up at a tournament, then only 5.4% of the armies are going to be Daughters of Cain, but they're going to win nearly over 70% of their games, which I think is fascinating. The really interesting stat is that for the first time, Legions of Nagash worldwide have become the most popular army at competitive events. 13.1% is their meta representation now. So that means, I'm sure you know, but if you go to a tournament, over 13% of the armies are going to be Legions of Nagash. Interestingly, at the Blood and Glory event just gone, that was nearly 20%. So that's just massive stats, right? The fact that you've got a 20%, one in 5 armies are Legions of Nagash. And the big question is as to why. So I'm going to jump back to the Twitch chat now, and see what you guys are saying. I have my opinion, but there are some incredibly good gamers in the chat right now, and Speckles. So, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts, realistically, on why they're winning? For me, it has to be that Legions of Nagash, why they're so popular. For me, it has to be easy use. Putting them, painting them and building them is fairly easy. I mean, Nagash himself is obviously an intricate model, but everything else you can get a lot of. And I think the key element, realistically, here, in my opinion, has got to be the fact that they're so competitive because you can lose a unit and get wiped out. You can spend that command point for that command ability and put the entire unit back on the board. It's just like, so there just is no comparison. You've got a command point I can spend to auto move 6, or maybe re-roll a charge, or maybe give me +1 attack. Or I spend a command point and generate 400 points back into my army every single turn. And in an objective-based game, ridiculous, in my opinion. So in the chat, Positive Victims, so that's Darren, says easy game, easy life, which I think is pretty fair. Harry says, I love Legions of Nagash because they have a ton of variety. Speckles in the chat, one of the interestingly, been using Arcan the Black for a long time, way before the Legions of Nagash book, and using it to take entire units off with Curse of Years. Said it was weird seeing so many of them on the board at this event just gone. Wordfall says all of the top armies were Arcan or Nagash with Grimgrass Reapers. That's right. So taking a unit of 30 Grimgrass Reapers or 20 Grimgrass Reapers or a 10-man unit, it doesn't matter. They have a 4-up save which you can't ignore, which ignores Rend. So you've got to do. I mean, they're just going to halve all the attacks coming in straight off the bat. That's massive. And then you can just take the entire unit and spend a command point in Legions of Nagash, put them back on the board. That's why they're devastated. This goes to show how balanced Stormcast really are. A 50% win rate is super good for an army, which is everything. Yes, Archean, we're going to get to that. I agree with you. Positive Victor said, I heard Nagash got hand of dusted by Arcan in one game. That's a great story. There we go. Hey, Donal. Hope you're well. So yeah, Legions of Nagash is super forgiving, especially in an objective-based game. So many armies that you're going to see there. Interestingly, if we're talking about the win percentage, let me cut back to the stats. Look at this win percentage. Daughters came with a 70% win rate. Don't have the ability to bring 400. They've got no summoning. They don't put 400 points back on the board. Yes, they're amazing. Yes, they're already they're very, very good, and they win loads because of loads of reasons. The hags make the units in the Battle Shark. They can reroll the world. They do incredible damage. They're just awesome. They're super survivable, way more survivable than Nurgle. But they can't put hundreds of points back on the board. But they're still not winning as much Legions of Nagash, which I think is really interesting. And then Wolfall's also saying top 3 Stormcast armies were all Sequitur heavy. with Gabriel Schurhart. So really, really helping there. So Legions of Nagash are doing very, very well. They've placed, like we said, and they're the most popular army now. So you're gonna play against them. 13.1% in the meta. They've got a win rate of nearly 60%, 58%, which is really interesting. And is especially interesting when you talk about talking about destruction lists. We're going to talk about Iron Jaws in a minute, bless them, and we're going to talk about the fact they're not performing well. But are we seeing very good gamers not using Iron Jaws as an example? That's what a chat I was having with the Grot Terrorist Donal himself earlier. Yes, are people just not playing with them? And then that really goes on to talk about, that really references the Stormcast Eternal's win rate, which is 50%, which Games Workshop's got to love that stat. You know, they're winning half their games all the time, which you can't really ask for a better balanced average army. You know, like that's the starter army, you'll win half your games. That's brilliant. They've got to be over the moon about that. But I will say that I think, much like Iron Jaws, it's curved down because of the player base and the people who are playing it, in my opinion. I think the sorts of people who are like playing Iron Jaws are going and having fun and not looking, which is why we're going to do a bit of a comparison, I think, in a minute, between, we're going to do a comparison between the Blood and Glory stats and the Heat stats. Sorry, the GT Finals stat, because obviously everyone at the GT Finals qualified in a previous tournament where everyone at Blood and Glory could just buy a ticket and turn up. So you've probably got a stronger player base. That's the best way. Is that a good way to say it? Stronger player base in from the GT Finals than you would have at Blood and Glory. That's not meant to be critical of anyone at all, and there were lots of good players at both events. I just more mean that the stats. It's meant to be really interesting. Hi, the Bolt, Speckles, the Angry Wargamer. We had a Zinch, a non-eel heavy Ineco 5-0 event on the weekend. Where was this, the Angry Wargamer? Is that in Australia? I mean, you just triggered my hobby, Rob. So sorry. Is the raw data available somewhere? Not difficulty. How much is player versus army choice? Not yet, Prof T. I'm sorry, but eventually. You guys, don't worry. In the next couple of months, this weekly show is really going to take a sharp curve up in its output. Again, massive shout out to LLV putting all the stats together. I spent the whole morning programming this into some video you guys may see as well, so we'll see. Hey, Bob Monkey Cheese. One of the best players in my region only plays Iron Jaws. I think good players are leaving them behind for death armies, but I wouldn't call Iron Jaws top tier just yet. I wouldn't say Iron Jaws are top tier competitively. I would say if you win 3 games at a tournament with Iron Jaws, I think you're doing really well. That's my opinion. That's it. Runax team event. Didn't Heralds of War, didn't Clint come second at the Runax event as well? Awesome. We'd love to plug that in as well. Free Guild data, moves, I'm afraid Free Guild are so far down the list, they're not on the data, but we will be releasing these on our Facebook pages and Twitter and everywhere else after the show, so don't worry about that. Hi, moves. Right, so we talked about Legions, and we talked about the fact that they don't, so interestingly, Legions of Nagash, most popular, but Daughters of Cain, they've won 12, they've placed on 5+ wins 12 times. Legions of Nagash have only done it 10 times, and there's twice as many Legions of Nagash players. So that's a really big shout. It's a really important thing to point out that even though there's only half the player base playing with Daughters of Cain, they're still doing better, which I hope is pretty key. Next up, Stormcast Eternals, 50% win rate. We talked about it. They are the second most popular now in Age of Sigmar, which is interesting. The Soul Wars happened, and it looks like everyone joined Team Nagash. Everyone was like, fuck you, Stormcast. I'm on the team. But obviously with the release of the Moon Clan book, basically it's now a one-army game. Everyone's playing Moon Clan. That's the only clan. And that's all anyone cares about. Good that Martin finished... Yes, Alkanol, good that Carl Martin finished top 20 as a Seraphon. Finally, some good result. Yes, well done. We are going to be getting onto those stats in a minute from the events from Blood and Glory this weekend. We'll do the overall world stats, and then we'll look at some specific event stats. Also, Donor and Positive Victim saying Carl is amazing. So, Carl, if you're out there, you've got big fans in the Sigmar community. Mooncast, not Moon Clan. Right, so Stormcast Eternals, realistically, they win 50% of their games. They've placed in the top 5 6 times. So only half the times Daughters of Cain have. However, they've got 4 wins, 22 times, Legions of Nagash 38 times, and Daughters of Cain 22 times. And talking of not winning 5 games in a row, let's talk about Sylvaneth, because always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Now they have won 5 games 4 different times. I think that's cool. That's a great stat. However, you then go to see that they've played 17 times with only 4 wins, and I really think that there's something just stopping them jumping over that. Is it Hugbit Wiggett he just can't jump that final game and make it 5 wins? Like I know for a fact 5 wins happened from Richie from Just Play this weekend at Blood and Glory, so he's popped that up there and helped improve that stat. But Sylvaneth are rocking a 56% win rate, which is not bad. It's very respectable. Like, especially when you compare it to, it's not far off Legions and Nagash. Right? They've got a 58% win rate, but they just can't, they always do well. They just can't jump. They have jumped to 5 wins previously. They just can't constantly do it. Not in the same sort of push that you see Legions and Daughters of Cain doing. Oh, wow. Also, talking about Seraphon very quickly, Seraphon also won a Polish event last week, Razordon spam, similar to what Rob was championing. And I'm sure we have a couple of the Polish fellas listening. I know we're big in the Baltics, so big shout out to the Baltic crew. Richie won 4, not 5. I'm very sorry, LV. That's a wrong. So, yeah. So, Richie, again, not able to jump that hurdle from 4 wins to 5 wins. And that's where Sylvaneth are sitting at the minute. Sylvaneth have got this kind of like hurdle where they need to just jump up. And now what's really interesting, Sylvaneth represents 6% of all armies that you're likely to play. Now, obviously, this is based since Age of Sigmar 2 came out, so there's been a bit of lag in time information. So when we go and look at the 2 factions, both Blood and Glory and the GT finals, we might see that they're not as popular or more popular, which might mean that shooting could come back or not come back. The fact that there's only 6% there, though, means I think I've talked about this on the show before. I'm going to talk about it again. I think shooting can be a thing. Shooting can be a big thing in Age of Sigmar, and people aren't taking it. And then if we look at the two problem childs, Daughters of Cain and Legions and Nagash, with their win rates and their podiums and how much they place in the top 10, you've got to kill Arcan, you've got to kill Nagash, but you've got to go through Grimgas and zombies and, well, not zombies, that tends to be less popular, more skeleton warriors. You've got to get through them to get to those characters at the back that are either making units immune to battle shock and giving them prayers, or that are bringing entire units back from the grave sites. And you need either something that can Alpha Strike in there and get them, or not Alpha Strike, but sorry, just strike into their backlines and get them, or can just shoot them off the board. And I know that's easier said than done, especially in the Realm of Shadow, with your ethereal Nagashes. But it's something I think that's the answer. Yes, and Dead Dwardin, we will talk about it in a minute. But Flesh Eater Courts, got a big shout out to Team USA ETC, bringing that up. So let me I'll finish that out in a second. Sylvaneth, and this is really key. They're not that heavily represented, so you can bring a bunch of shooting and not worry. Now, where it becomes interesting is that it's not armies that are really controlling shooting in Age of Sigmar. It's whether or not you're playing in the realms, and it's whether or not you're playing with realmscapes in effect. So you could be playing in realms where all terrain is line of sight blocking in the realm of fire, or where all your abilities are reduced to 18, 12, or 6 in the realm of shadow, as well as a bunch of other stuff. And that's what's really hampering people. And I think, which is what making Legions of Nagash more popular as well, because big spellcasters, access to loads of spells, which I think is just a really strong push. Speckles, Sylvaneth are great counters to Legion with the Wildwood to block grave sites, to block off grave sites. Speckles, that's a really good point. Hi, Terrorist, glad you're back. So, I would argue based on this information, find some shooting in your armies. Find some ways to deal with those long. And now, what's really interesting, if you look at the 2 armies leading the field, Daughters and Legions and Nagash, they don't have any shooting. Realistically, I know you've got a couple of shots here and there, but not really. But magic, if we take that as range damage, so if we take shooting and we mix it into range damage, which is what we're going to do in the future, Legions and Nagash obviously have access to a lot of range damage, but Daughters really don't. unless you're taking the shooty snake ladies, but they don't tend to take that very much. Positive victim. The trouble is you need a massive amount of shooting, and I would agree with that as well. That's a really good point. Adequate Wargamer, thanks for subscribing. It means a lot to us. Yes, hi Zyko. Right, so next, so that's Sylvaneth. Shooting, does it deal with stuff? You need to one-shot Nagash, Zombie Lord, etc. as they heal up, says Positive Victim. And yes, I also agree with that. And I'm not saying that's the only thing you have to do. You know, and maybe there's another tactic, maybe flooding the board onto their grave sites. But we've just got to talk about the fact that there needs to be a way to deal with them. Because what we're not going to do is talk about how we can change the rules. What we're going to talk about are the points. How do you beat those armies right now? You need to kill the hags, yeah? Or you need to be able to kill the witch elves outright, which is easier said than done. Or, and this is really important, you need to kill whichever character is going to bring back entire units of death units back to life. Those are the two ways. Right, next up. And this is really important, Maggotkin. So Chaos are having a bit of a time. Blades of Khorne are everywhere. And I guess if some particular players didn't keep getting drunk on nights out, maybe they'd perform better if they were concentrating on more than 2 hours sleep. Darren. But, and this is a big shout, Khorne are further down the list, but Maggotkin and Nurgle, and this is really important, they represent 7.1% of the meta, so they're one of the most popular armies that you're likely to see. They're more popular than Sylvaneth, they're more popular than Daughters of Cain, they're more popular than Ironjaws, so, you know, they're going to be there, and they're going to be there in abundance, and they win 52% of their games, so over half the games, and that is important. Why are they doing well? Well, they sit on objectives very, very comfortably. They can do great damage if you get the right spells and the right units. Hi, Canhammer, hope you're well. Some people just claiming how they are in the chat, which I really respect and appreciate. So yeah, they sit on objectives really well, and it's an objective-based game. Now, I'm willing to listen to people talk me off this point, but when you're looking at these armies, Legions of Nagash can put hordes onto objectives. Daughters of Cain use hordes to fight and go onto objectives. Stormcast Eternals less so, but they've got a lower win rate realistically. Sylvaneth, more dryads, better games, better results in my opinion. And everything I've seen from Sylvaneth and Sylvaneth players have said that they're going to be taking more dryads. Now you're looking at Maggotkin and Nurgle. They can just put Plague Bearer blocks down. They can put units of Plague Monks down. And they can do good work. 52% win rate though, so you win half. They have podiumed 3 times on 5 wins, or they've got 5 wins 3 times, in total. That's since AOS 2 came out. So that's, I mean, it's not loads, but there you go. And they've got 4 wins, 15 separate occasions, which is quite a lot. But this is where they really start to get into it. 32 3+ wins, so 32 times they've had 3 wins. But compare that to Legions of Nagash. Legions of Nagash almost double with 56 3+ wins. But there is twice as many Legions of Nagash armies, so realistically they're on about the same par. Yes, they are LLV, 100%. I've stopped using them because people don't like playing Nurgle. I've started getting best games since using Khorne because everything dies. And I've had more fun. So that's a good shout as well. What these stats don't show is the fun of the armies to play. Daughters of Cain, fun. Legions of Nagash, fun. Stormcast, fun. Sylvaneth, fun, realistically. Making Nurgle difficult because what they do is they stop you from doing things. And people do not like not playing their game. But then Legions of Nagash do the same thing. Their spell laws got to be one of the is if you play Magic the Gathering, it's like a blue control deck playing against Legions of Nagash, which is very frustrating. Also, it's like a black-blue deck. If I got that right, but basically what it does, it controls your army and it heals itself constantly. It's so annoying. This Morgan Soul Smasher, it does already include the Blood and Glory stats. So big shout out again to LLV. So cover Maggotkin, Idneth. Now I'm not saying they're easy to play, but you buy 20 eels or so and you just run them at people. Basically, are you looking for a noob army? Here we go. This is the Seal army. So they've 3.5% of the meta, so that's how many armies they represent, which in total was 44 armies have been used for Idoneth Deepkin. However, their win rate, let me just make sure I get this right, is 63%. So that is 5% higher than Legions of Nagash, 13% higher than Stormcast. It's one of the high, in fact, yeah, it's one of the highest win rates of an army that's quite representative. You've obviously got some odd outliers like Phoenix Temple and Order of Draconis, but they haven't been played by many people or many times. So one of the best performing armies that you see a lot of, and they just win games, son. They just win games all day, son. And why do they do it? Because it's fucking easy. You charge the eels, they electrocute you, and you die. The eels move 1 billion miles, like 16 inches, and run and charge. On turn 2 or turn 3, they just always get hit with everything first, which is just super frustrating. How do you deal with them? You need to castle well. You need to recognise they've got bravery 6, so they can battle shock them off, especially if they're big units of 9. That's the thing to think about. You've got to really go hard on them early, otherwise they're going to flip the tides and they're going to be in an incredibly strong combat position. You could do the Khorne thing where you strike back after you've died. That's quite useful. Or mitigating them. Minuses to hit, they're not really a big fan of. Or control their movement, make it so they can't fly. Those sorts of things. They've got crazy range. They can deep strike. They get pluses to charge. They're very, very good. And we're mainly talking about the eels. But the thralls are something to watch out for as well. You're definitely seeing in competitive lists a lot less Eidolons. You're seeing a lot less of those. And you're seeing a lot less of the Achillean King. You're still seeing him sometimes only to make the eels battle line realistically. But you're seeing some thralls and you're seeing some reavers. And you're seeing mainly eels, either Morsar Guard, but that tends to be less so, and it tends to more be the combat eels that just go out there and kick face. Morgan Sword Smasher, there must be more to that book. Morgan Sword Smasher, there is more to that book. It's just, why would you not move 16 and then charge with +6 to charge, or deep strike 9 inches away with +6 to charge, with arguably one of the best combat units in the game. The Terrorgeist scream them off. It's great, says Lee Bromley. Okay, that's a good call. Also, a big shout out Lee Bromley. You super babe. Thrall Heavy List is going to be the next list after 100-point price hike, says the Angry Wargamer, and I agree. I think what we're seeing with Idoneth Deepkin is an issue that won't last forever, a bit like Skyfires, but we can't really guarantee that we're going to have any points changes until like 8 months' time, for the next version of the General's Handbook. So learning how to castle, putting cheap screens in your army, especially against combat, is what you're going to need to have. Chaos, you've got Marauders. Death, doesn't matter. You can bring them back for a command point, so you guys are cool. Destruction, Grot Fanatics. That's a great call. Order, you've got Skinks. Depends which Order army you're playing. Order are in a strong place right now, so they don't really need too much help, right? But they're good. They're good. Doppelganger Cloak on a hero to hold a full unit of eels, says the Edible Wargamer. That's a really good shout as well. That's really good. Also, if you're playing Beast of Chaos, or you're generally playing Chaos, don't forget access to the Bull Taurus and being able to cast that gives them always strikes last. So they're going to go last in that combat phase. Make sure I get this right, if they're always able to go first, because it's your turn, it then I think turns into the normal you go, I go. Oh, Lee Bromley, you lost your voice. I'm so sorry, brother. Mine's back now. I'm just on fire, so I'm ready. Eternal Guard are a nice screen to ally in for elves. Okay, it's a good shout. I'm sure there are a bunch. If you guys like this show, listen to it. Obviously, this has gone up on Facebook, and this has gone up on YouTube, and this is on Twitch. So just leave comments. But it's better on YouTube and Facebook, so you'll be able to read them and reply to them. And if you listen to the podcast, you can either message the page or tweet us, Facebook us. Those are the places to go. And also Dwarf Warriors Provoke Tree. I'm very sorry. Dwarden Warriors are also very good. Chris Myhill, big shout out for it over here, loves them. Really thinks they're really good. I know Dispossessed Dan's a big lover of them. There's Dwarf Warriors for Order as your chaff screens. So that's what you need against the Deepkin, because they don't really have much shooting. Again, an army doesn't have much shooting. Magickin and Nurgle doesn't have much shooting most of the time, the way they're built. Sylvaneth does have shooting, but it tends not to be Colonel Hunters with bows that you tend to see. Stormcast Eternals, generally Sequitors at the minute. You don't see loads of shooting. You do have the Comet, which is range damage, so we'll consider that shooting. So yeah, like you're talking about combat as a game, right? Then Disciples of Zinch, the boogeyman of AOS 1. So they're represented 4% of the time, so a bit more than INET, but they, oh god, this makes me feel good. I almost, if I could have, oh dear, I don't even need a little blue pill for this. This is just exciting. 49% is their win rate, and I'm sorry if you're a Disciples of Zinch player out there. You still got a little bit of emotional holdover from Age of Sigmar 1. I love it that you aren't winning half your games. It makes me feel really joyous. Yeah, so 49%. They've podiumed 3 times. They've got 5+ wins 3 times, and that's it. Generally across the board, doing okay, but not brilliant. Yeah. They need stepping up. Right. However, ETC USA team, Bill Souza and the rest of the guys. So Flesh Eater Courts. Now this, I know you guys are listening to this. I know you guys are listening to me, and I'm encouraging you and hoping you'll listen to this every week for the punditry I'm about to give you. However, Flesh Eater Courts being up there makes me look like an idiot because I definitely called them as dead. But come on, someone. But I would say that the reason Flesh Eater Courts are doing well is, I don't know. I've asked Bill to come on the show. He's going to talk to me about it. I know for a fact it's usually big stomping monsters. It's normally the Ghoul Kings and Terrorgeist. What they do is they use command points to summon more units. So you start off with a 2,000 point army, or maybe like an 1,800 point army for some command point farming, and then you end up putting another like 800 points on the board. That tends to be what I've seen of it so far. I'd love to know more in depth. I'm pretty certain that's the way it works. But they're doing really well. They've won in the US. They've won 2 tournaments in a row, which is a big deal, and that's what puts them on those 3 5+ wins that you see there. But they only represent 1.9% of the meta, so about 2% of the armies. You're going to see 23 total armies been used. However, they've podiumed as much. To give you an example, as Maggotkin, who've had 88 armies attempt to try to do that. So that's just a really big. That's just a big deal, right? And then you've got them on 3 4+ wins, and like I said, they're out there rocking only a 47% win rate though. So those guys that are doing really well with them are really beating the curve. So it looks like there's definitely a strong list, especially the same couple of people using the same ish list over in America. So that's really the place to look at for your Flesh Eater Courts. But I did say that I didn't think anyone could win a tournament with Flesh Eater Courts. So I think massive shout out to those guys over there in the USA, making me look like an idiot, which is what's key. And I respect that. Same with everyone, all of you. Everything I'm saying, it's a challenge. It's not a criticism. Lee Bromley, I'm not helping the FEC data. Well, this is the point. Lee Bromley, you're not one of them star players helping out. You need to get up there. You need to improve yourself. Yeah, you need to be like pumping up. You need to get 3 4 wins, increase these stats. That match win percentage, by the way, that you guys can see, or if you've downloaded and looking at, realistically, that's all down to you. Like, if you're like, hey, look, I'm an Order Draconis player, you need to be pumping that win percentage up. Every loss is that percentage going down globally. So get on it, boys and girls. Obviously, whoever you are and whatever you're doing. Next up, popular armies. You've got Blades of Khorne. They're rocking 6% of the popular of the meta, so you'll see them 6% of the time. They're winning about half the game, or 52% basically, 51.8. So it's really good. That was definitely brought up recently by people like Dan Ford here in the UK. However, the past couple of tournaments they've had a bit of a kick in. But as you've seen, they were at the GT finals as well. They were also at the ACMR doubles. That doesn't really count and isn't part of these stats, but just anecdotally stuff that I've seen. Thirster bomb of incessant range doing AoE 20 mortal wounds, etc. I saw that at the doubles. I know that was happening at Blood and Glory. So there's a really fun build there, but warning and fair warning, more than likely that's going to be FAQ that's not going to stack. But they've got some good counters because it's a combat heavy army against the combat heavy gaming that we're seeing at the minute. Then you've got, and I missed them, I'm so sorry, you've got mixed destruction. So they represent about 2.5% of the meta. And they have podium 3 times. So again, just as much as Mankin and Nurgle or Deepkin, so doing really, really well. A lot of that's got to be shouted out to that mixed destruction group. But they're only winning 45% of their games generally. So anyone who's winning 5+ tournaments or even just winning 5+ games is just doing fantastic generally. And is really beating that bell curve. Is it a bell curve? I think I'm going to have to watch like a maths show. Fucking hell. Sorry for swearing. Apologies. I'm trying to at least make the stat show PC. And then so other standouts before we move on to the next bit of stats. Order Draconis are still up there with their 66% win rate, but they've only been taken to 6 times, 6 armies, 0.5% of the meta. And Phoenix Temple, 0.3% of the meta, 75% win rate. Realistically, and that's 4 different armies at 4 different events. So you are just looking at like the same couple of people taking the same armies but doing incredibly well. So maybe there's something more to be said for those armies. They're just not being played as much, but when they do get played, they smash out the park, which is the exact opposite of the Green Boys. That's right, I'm looking at you, Iron Jaws. You represent 5.4% of the meta. So that's 67 different occurrences of the army being played in tournaments in AOS 2. 67 times, 5.4%. However, they've only won, oh god, things over the stat, 37% of their games. One of the worst performing armies in Age of Sigmar 2. Coot45, thanks for subscribing. It means a lot to us. All boy Phil, wrong Rob, Orcs as a 100% win rate. I've just got to say 37%. Like, and why? Why are we seeing that? Well, it's a bit like the Stormcast. Like, if you were to say to me, even, like, well, let's just take me, and then you have your own conversations with people you respect and appreciate. Stormcast can be a winning army all the time. Very good army, really strong. They've got loads of bonuses. They are weak to mortal wounds, and they can't necessarily put hordes out there. However, you've got a whole bunch of new players jumping in on the on the Stormcast Eternals bent. They're like, I'm new. I'll go play Stormcast Eternals. I'll take them to a tournament. And then that's why I think that they're down at that 50% win rate. Iron Jaws, I think, is the same thing. Or, and this is key, there's just a bunch of people who are just like, oh man, I just want to run forward and smash face. But what's really, really interesting is if you are indeed, I want to run forward and smash face, there are a bunch of armies which you wouldn't think are, so Daughters of Cain are more killy, and even more survivable than both Iron Jaws and Nurgle. Imagine Daughters of Cain as Nurgle mixed with Iron Jaws, and you'll get some sort of weird, that's what they're like. Legions of Nagash, really because of those bent magic mechanics and the command ability to bring units back is why they're up there. Iron Jaws are just getting a kick in because the game's a combat game, and weirdly they're not the combat army that you would think that they are. They are not the smashing and bashing heroes that we need them to be. But, you know, if you're out there and you're listening, you think, oh, fuck you, Rob, then, you know, step it up. Oh, other big shout out, obviously, Seraphon. Let's have a look at you fellas. I really think that you're you could do a really good job. I think I consider myself to be a bit of a Seraphon player. I think we just need to have a relook at our army. 3.5% representation in the meta, 44 different armies. However, our win rate is only 43%, so really, really quite low. Why is that? Well, I think it's Ripidactyls. I know, Seraphon people, you're going to jump on me, and I'm going to be in the Seraphon chat later, or Hell the Block Toad, and you're going to kick me in the teeth. But I think we're playing a different game now. I think using the Rippers to go and alpha strike the things that we need to do is taking a glass hammer. You would think Daughters of Cain and Ripidactyls, it would be like whoever charges. The Ripidactyls charge, they'll kill the unit of Witch Elves, and then you'll be cool. But that's just not the case. They're not glass hammers. Imagine Daughters of Cain are actually tanky, armor-clad warrior goddesses, and your Ripidactyls are still papers, like they're still paper bullets. they're just going to get shredded. So I think it needs to be things like skink screams and razordons. Still work on that summoning as well. You know, throw a cheeky Troglodon in there and cast another spell through it. I don't know, but we need to think outside the box realistically, Seraphon. And I recognise that the strengths that we had in AOS 1 maybe aren't coming through in AOS 2. But I'd love to have a long, we need more Samuel Jacksons. Woeful. If you like Ripidactyls and want to play them, start painting more Sargard instead. I mean, that's a really good argument. You know, like if you look at the Idoneth Eels, they are Ripidactyls on crack, and are cheaper and better in all ways. So I just think you can't play the game, so you need to play a different game. That's my Seraphon thoughts. And anyone out there thinks I'm wrong, that's fine. Finally, Legions of Asgore. My army for the year. Look at that. 1% of the meta. Who would have thought it? That's right. Chaos Dwarves. Hashtag a real army. 60% win rate. Unfortunately, my wins recently don't attribute to that, which is a bit sad. But there you go. So that is that's the overall breakdown sheet that you guys are looking at. And again, we'll pick out different stats every week. We won't just read out the same thing. And what we'll do is we'll come to the show with some kind of different like feelings and thoughts on those subjects. Where's the other less good dwarves? Great shout, Archean. Nowhere near where they need to be. Right, let's get this up, because this is going to be really interesting. So we're going to do the GT finals and then Blood and Glory as two comparisons, right? So as you guys can see on the screen, we're looking at the GT final sheet now. So this is the sheet from, obviously, the finals. So this should give you a good indication of what we're looking at. So at the finals, the most popular army was Stormcast Eternals. There on 13.7%. And Daughters of Cain, also at that tournament, one of the most popular armies, 12.3%. So that really, really, really changes the stats. Like, you know, I was like, oh, they're only about 5% Daughters of Cain. But now, looking at a single event very recently, they represent 12%. And they rocked up a 65% win rate. Just saying, Legion of Asgore, me and Andy, good shout. We got a 67% win rate in the Legion of Asgore. As did Nighthaunt, got a 67% win rate, but there was only 2 players for both of those two factions. Daughters of Cain had 9 players, and they still maintained that 65% win rate, so everyone was good. Idoneth Deepkin, they got 61% win rate as well, with only 3 players. And then Legions of Nagash, 9 players and 57%. Nix, yeah, we could do a show on Seraphon, actually. I said it's a faction I know quite well, I think, and I'd love to talk about it. So look at the GT finals. You've got a real big difference. So let's look at Blood and Glory, and then you can see the difference, right? So there's the Blood and Glory stats that have gone up, right? And then if we look at the Blood and Glory stats, Legions of Nagash now represent 19.3%, 32 players with Legions of Nagash at that event. And then we go to Daughters of Cain, and they've dropped down, down to 5% again. So that's what's really interesting. That does kind of mirrors the global stats realistically, but when you're looking at a more, I don't want to say the GT finals was a more competitive event. What I would like to say that it had more people who qualified from previous events to get to where they were. That meant, but there was more Daughters of Cain there. However, the fewer Daughters of Cain armies here achieved an even better win rate, 70%, even though some of those games were mirror matches. So it was Daughters of Cain versus Daughters of Cain that went through to play other armies. And that's a big deal, especially when you've only got 8 players. So beating each other, that's a very interesting mix. But Legions of Nagash, 1 in 4 armies were a Legions of Nagash army. But let's look at their win rate, has now dropped to 54%. So that tells me there's a bunch of new people playing them, or people are really knowing how to start to work against Legions of Nagash, either of those two. But we know that 3 people placed in the top 3 with Legions of Nagash at that event. However, there were, I think more than that were on 5+ wins. So it's all about the secondaries now. But then those 3 people, I think, were also on 5+ secondaries as well. So interesting place for the game to be. Let's jump back to the GT finals. Let's have a little look at that. Stormcast Eternals were also heavily represented at the GT finals, 14%. But again, they just cruised on by a flat 50% win rate. They're just like, nope, we're just going to do what we want to do. Which I think is good. Big shout out to the host of Slanesh Force at the GT finals as well. Only 3%. They had 2 players, but they got a good 50% win rate, 58% win rate, nearly 60. So that's really thing. And then Ian Spink, look at that. This is a one-man stat machine. Bone Splitters, 1.4% of the meta at the GT final. They have 1 player, and he's rocked a 67% win rate on his own. So personally bringing up the entire Bone Splitters stat just on his own. The Angry Wargamer says, which elves are also the fucking worst to paint? They are the worst to paint. Merchant Prince asks, what if a part of the success of rare armies comes from the fact people don't know and encounter them often, so they don't really know what they do? Merchant Prince, that's actually spot on. And actually there's a similar thing happening in 40k at the minute where Thousand Sons armies are really underrepresented. But whenever they do play, they end up winning. They've got a very high win ratio. So that tends to be that a lot of people don't know how they work or what they do. Even more complicated in 40k, and possibly got some rules below if you're talking about it realistically, in that they've got all of those stratagems. So not only is it what the army does straight off the bat, it's what all those things it could do if they decide to spend some current points. Okay. So I hope that answers that. And Tom Mika was one of the Slanesh players. Go Tom Mika. Good job. And then again, looking at the GT finals, Blaze Corn, there were 4 players and they got 54%. But again, let's cut back to Blood and Glory. Let's have a look at that. Blaze Corn had 11 players, so a lot more popular, 53%. So about the same, which is really nice. And really flowing there, which I think is good. Now let's look at Stormcast Eternals at Blood and Glory. 20 players. But this time they dropped below that 50% win rate. They ended up on 49%. So I think that's some really... Oh, and look at that. Two Clan Scryer, which we haven't seen in a while, popping in at Blood and Glory. Big shout out to both those 2 players. Both doing quite well. Ended up with a 60% win rate, which I think is a big deal. So that is not bad. And Sylvaneth, 6%. 10 players with Sylvaneth with a 56% win rate. And not one of them, again, just like I said earlier in the show, managed those 5 wins. All 4 of them are sat on 4 wins. I think that's got to be really key, right? I know, that's just... Why can't they get that 5th win? That's my question. Where, do they fly too high? Is it autumn? I just think that's really important. And I'm really interested in how that works. Yeah, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Destruction there. 2 players at Blood and Glory. 2 players in Mixed Destruction out of 166 players. That's crazy. With a 50% win rate. One of them on 4 wins, one of them on 1 win. So the 1 win really brought down the Mixed Destruction stats there. So I think some really interesting stats between the 2, and I would argue, and again, Phoenix Temple. There we go. There's also that random Phoenix Temple who's in there, but sat on 3 wins as opposed to on a big 4, which is its average at the minute. Obviously, Blood and Glory, 166 players. So the biggest tournament in AOS so far. You've got CanCon coming up in February with 220 players. You've also got Bobo, which is, I think, sat at 180 players at the minute. And I think more tickets maybe are going on sale. So you've also got Sheffield Slaughter happening. So there's loads of tournament coverage going to be coming soon. Fascinating. We're in a fascinating place when it comes to stats. Anyway, I think that's, Chris let his own one-man team down. That's right, Chris. You need to sort that out. We need you to be doing better, brother. And then our last sheet that we're going to be looking at is sorted by 5+ wins. So this is do you know what? Let's just talk about Blood and Glory for a second because it's worth. I'll bring that back up and we'll cut to that sheet. What's really key here with the Blood and Glory stats is with there were 3 Blood and Glory. The 3 top armies were all legions in the gash. So they're not only now the most popular army, and you got to also say, well, if there's more of that army, then surely one of them is going to win, and that's a good argument. But you're talking about the top three were all Legions of Nagash armies. That is a big deal, right? So that Daughters of Cain have been doing consistently well, and statistically, as we looked at the stats earlier, Daughters of Cain are a better performing army across the year and across all events. So while Daughters of Cain didn't win Blood and Glory, as an example, they did, of the 8 armies, 4 of them won 4 games, right? And the other 4 won 3. So of the 8 armies, they at least won, they're all over 50%. That's why they've got a 70% win rate on Blood and Glory. And one of those Daughters of Cain armies beat another Daughter of Cain army, so that's why they're bumped down. So while Legions of Nagash are solid, don't get me wrong, they're still don't think that the Witch Elves are done. They're still out there, and they're still very, very dangerous. And also, you've got to remember whether or not you're playing in the realms for Age of Sigmar. If you're playing in the realms, then Legions of Nagash get stronger because they've got more casters. If you're not, they get worse, because now they've got big characters that aren't doing anywhere near as much stuff. And also, they've got some pretty big bullshit, like Ethereal Nagashes. So an 18 wound model with a 3-up save, rerolling once, with a 4-up in Normal Mortals, that then generates 400 points worth of Grimgas Reapers back up for a command point, is just a bit bananas, really. So for me, anyway, we'll ignore that. So yeah, that's the thing to think about realistically when you're talking about the Legions of Nagash. Yeah, I think that's good. 3 wins. That's pretty cool. Top 3, all the same faction. Some people would say that's an issue. I just think it's a bit of an aberration, personally. Anyway, finally, this is the final sheet you can see is sorted by 5+ wins, 4+ wins, match win percentage, and then top 10. So these are realistically just the better performing armies and how they work. Worldfall, putting Inferno Blaze on Grimgas makes stuff happen, for instance. It does make stuff happen. That's an entire unit could add to that, as you well know. Terrifying. So you've got Daughters of Cain, are just the best performing army in Age of Sigmar so far. Legions of Nagash are the most heavily represented army and the second best performing army. Are they? Yes, I suppose in top 10s they are. But I got to shout out Deepkin. We keep missing that stat, but that's a big deal, that Deepkin list. I think there are Deepkin armies very much like there are Ironjaw's armies. There's a bunch of people who've got the turtle and they've got some sharks. But when you're looking at the 5+ wins being the 3 there and the 16 4+ wins that we've seen in tournaments so far, that's all eels. That's just eels for days, kicking face. So watch out for INF. But Fleshy the Course being in there, just amazing. Go USA. Got to shout out USA there. That's them bringing that stat up. 47% win rate, but they're just bringing it up. They're just smashing. Yes. So yeah. I think, gentlemen, that is I think I've done an okay job there. You'll have to let me know what your thoughts and feelings are and how it's going to work. Obviously, this is going to be a podcast, and so you guys are listening to this back. Attached to the podcast will be a place where you can get all of the sheets, which are going to be put on Facebook and Twitter. So if you fancy it, it's taken someone in Canada their entire evening yesterday putting all that together, and it's taken my entire morning/afternoon to do this. So it would be amazing if you could share it with your local WhatsApp groups and your Facebook groups and your Twitter pages and your Facebook pages. Share them around so people can see it. We're going to do this every week. It's meant to be Flukesy, kicking face this week at Blood Glory with a big corn dragon. So yeah, it's meant to be. So big shout out to LLV who's helped it, who's put these together in the format we've done. People like John, who've helped me do stuff in the background as well. A massive shout out to everyone. It is a bit cold. Massive shout out to everyone on Patreon and Twitch who paid for the show to happen so they can put these out. You guys are wonderful. If you've come to this via the little mini video that I'll be putting out, then you guys should jump in here and join us every Monday, Monday evening, 7 to 11. We talk about Age of Sigmar. We do rundowns, me, Nathan, John, special guests. So you should join us on the Honest Wargamer, and we'd appreciate that a ton. We're going to be back next week. This is week 1, version 1, and I'm really up for hearing feedback, thoughts, feelings, what you think we could do better, what stats you want to hear more of, what you think is going to be cool, how we can put it together better, make it look flashier. Any of that info, love to hear it. This is for the community, paid for by the community, made for the community. So whatever it is you think you need, just give us a shout. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, you guys have been wonderful, and we'll see you soon. Thanks to everyone on Twitch to join me now. Don't forget, later, you should come and join me. Nathan, we'll talk some Age of Sigmar. We'll have a fun. Hope you've had a nice, fun day. And to everyone, don't forget, every army could be a winning army if you stop being a coward about it.